Hey, everyone, and welcome to a deep dive that's a little bit different this time.
Yeah, a bit of a twist.
We are going to be taking a look at a story
Okay.
that is written in simple English. The kind of English that you would use if you were just starting out learning the language.
Right.
But
Okay.
don't think that that means that it's a simple story.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
No.
This is what's so interesting about it, I think, is that it uses very basic vocabulary
Right?
and grammar to explore some really, really kind of deep, profound questions about life and what it means to be happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
It's set in this future world,
Okay.
the year 2123,
Okay.
where people can live forever,
Wow.
thanks to this special medicine.
Forever.
It's called Forever Life.
Forever life.
Right.
Okay.
That sounds pretty amazing, right?
Those sound pretty tempting.
But here's the catch.
Okay.
To keep taking the medicine, you have to give up something that you love
Oh.
every single year.
Every single year.
Every year.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that's the dilemma.
That's a tough one.
Would you choose to live forever if it meant constantly losing things that you care about?
That is a really brilliant way to hook the reader right from the start.
Right.
I mean, just imagine that, having to make that choice, eternal life,
Yeah,
but at that cost, constantly giving things up.
it's a big question.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit.
Sure.
The story starts by introducing us to Leo.
Okay.
He's our main character.
Right.
And he's already been living with Forever Life for 10 years.
Okay.
So we get to see how he's dealt with some of those early sacrifices.
Right. Right. So we see how he's kind of, adapted to this way of life.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's really interesting, I think, is how the story uses this really simple language
Yeah.
to show us those first few years.
Yeah.
Leo gives up a video game,
Yeah.
an old toy from his childhood,
Uh-huh.
things that are relatively easy to let go of.
Yeah. And at first it almost seems like kind of a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Like who wouldn't give up a few material possessions for the chance to live forever?
Exactly.
Seems like a good deal.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty good deal at first.
But then things start to get
Okay.
a little more complicated,
All right.
as you might imagine.
Yeah, so how does how does the story kind of build that tension?
Well, it does it really cleverly
Okay.
by slowly making those sacrifices more and more difficult.
Oh.
It's kind of like how we might make compromises in our own lives. It
Right.
might start small,
Yeah.
but then suddenly we realize that we've given up something that's really essential to us.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, like it kind of sneaks up on you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This has become a much bigger deal.
And that's exactly where we hit the turning point in the story.
Okay.
So Leo has to sacrifice soccer,
Oh.
which is something that he absolutely loves. And that's a huge part of his life.
Right? Like a really, really core part of who he is.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way that the story describes his sadness,
Yeah.
using such simple words,
Yeah.
is incredibly powerful.
This is such a great example of how simple language can be so incredibly effective,
I know, it's amazing.
especially for, learners.
Yeah.
It really allows them to focus on that emotional core of the story
Right.
without getting lost in, complicated vocabulary or grammar.
Yeah.
And, if you think about it, when
Yeah.
we experience a real loss in life, sometimes we're just left speechless. We can't even find the words.
Yeah.
That raw emotion
Right.
doesn't need fancy words,
Right.
It just is what it is.
Absolutely. It's
Powerful.
Yeah, so as the story goes on,
Okay.
we see how this sacrifice starts to really weigh on Leo,
Right.
and he notices other people who seem to be fine with Forever Life.
Okay.
But he also sees those who look just as tired and doubtful as he feels.
It's like the story is kind of hinting at this idea that
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong answer
Right.
to this dilemma.
Yeah.
Everyone copes with loss and sacrifice in their own way.
Yeah.
And even the promise of immortality doesn't change that fundamental human experience.
And that's where the story introduces another character,
Okay.
Mia.
Mia.
She's Leo's friend,
Okay.
and she's also taking Forever Life.
All right.
But she has a completely different outlook.
Oh, how so?
Well, instead of dwelling on what she's lost,
Uh-huh.
she's constantly trying to find new things to love.
Oh, wow. Okay.
like new hobbies, new experiences.
So she's kind of like trying to keep ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Always have something new on deck
Exactly.
to fill that void.
Yeah,
That's really interesting.
it really is.
And it really raises the question, like, is this healthy adaptation?
Yeah.
Is it a form of denial?
Right.
Is she really finding fulfillment in this, or is she just kind of running from the pain of loss?
It's almost like she's trying to outrun the rules of the game.
Right.
Yeah, like constantly staying one step ahead
Yeah.
of the next sacrifice.
Yeah. Always got to be ready with the next thing.
Exactly.
I wonder if that's even sustainable in the long run.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a really interesting question.
But think about how this contrast between Leo and Mia
Yeah,
might resonate with language learners.
absolutely.
It shows how, even with a limited vocabulary,
Uh-huh.
you can create these complex characters with very different perspectives on life.
Right. It's like a master class in character development.
Yeah.
Using really simple tools.
Right.
That's really impressive.
Okay, so we've got Leo struggling with these big feelings.
Okay.
We've got Mia off,
Yeah.
finding new hobbies to love.
All right.
What happens next?
I'm hooked. I gotta know.
Well, Leo decides that he needs to talk to someone.
Okay.
So he goes to his family.
Right. His family.
And here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because his whole family is also on Forever Life.
Oh, wow. The whole family. Okay, so this is like a societal norm.
It seems to be pretty widespread at this point.
This is fascinating.
And this scene is really crucial because it reveals a lot about the society in this story.
Right.
Leo's family is surprisingly accepting
Yeah.
of his doubts about Forever Life.
Oh, wow.
You'd think that in a world where everyone's obsessed with living forever.
Right. You'd think there'd be a lot of pressure to just go along with it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But instead, they acknowledge that he has a choice.
Oh, that's interesting.
He can keep taking the medicine,
Uh-huh.
or he can choose to age and eventually die.
So they're giving him the option.
They are.
Wow.
Okay, which I was really surprised by, I have to say.
Yeah. That's not what I expected.
Like, you'd think there would be more pressure to conform.
Right, exactly.
But
Instead,
they emphasize his right to choose.
wow. So it suggests that even in this seemingly utopian future,
Yeah,
individual autonomy is still valued.
I think so.
That's really cool.
It's like the story is reminding us that no matter how advanced technology becomes,
Right.
some human values remain
Yeah.
constant.
Yeah, I love that.
The right to choose our own path,
Yeah.
even if it means going against the norm,
Absolutely.
is something that resonates really deeply with us,
For sure.
even centuries from now.
That's a powerful message. And what's really neat is
So what's that?
the way that it's presented in such simple language
Yeah.
really makes it accessible
Yes.
to learners at all levels.
And I think that's what's so amazing about this whole story,
It is really well done.
is that it can communicate these incredibly complex ideas
Yeah.
using very simple language.
Very skillfully done.
So we've got Leo wrestling with this huge decision,
Okay.
Mia trying to find happiness in these constant new experiences,
Right.
and a society that seems to accept both paths.
So where do we go from here?
Well, we'll find out in the next part of our deep dive.
Can't wait.
I know it's going to be good.
Stay tuned, folks.
We'll be right back.
All right. Welcome back to the deep dive into this really fascinating story.
It really is remarkable how much depth it manages to pack into such a simple narrative.
Yeah, I know. It's really impressive.
We've been talking about these big ideas, life, death, choice,
Yeah.
and yet the language is so clear
Yeah.
and easy to understand.
And I think that's what makes it such a great example
Yeah.
of how effective, simple English can be for storytelling.
Yeah.
For language learners.
Especially for learning.
It's like this masterclass
Yeah.
in how to convey these complex emotions and ideas
Right.
without relying on complicated vocabulary or grammar.
And for native speakers, I think it's a good reminder
Oh, yeah, for sure.
that sometimes the most powerful stories are told in the simplest way.
Absolutely. There's a certain beauty
Yeah.
in stripping away all the excess and just getting to the heart of the matter.
Absolutely.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so where did we leave off?
Oh, yeah, right.
Leo was facing this huge decision about whether to continue taking Forever Life.
Right. And I think his family's reaction,
Yeah.
their acceptance of his doubts,
Yeah.
really adds another layer of intrigue to this whole world.
Yeah.
It suggests that even in a society that's so obsessed with immortality,
Right.
there's room for different perspectives.
It really does. And it makes you wonder
Yeah.
if there's kind of a darker side to this utopia
Ooh.
that the story hasn't fully revealed.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Like, are there people who are forced to take Forever Life,
Right.
even if they don't want to?
Yeah.
are there consequences for those who choose a natural lifespan?
Those are great questions.
Yeah. And the fact that the story kind of raises these questions
Yeah.
without explicitly spelling everything out,
Uh-huh.
I think that's what makes it so engaging,
I agree.
especially for language learners.
Yeah.
It invites the reader to really think critically
Right.
and to use their imagination.
Yeah, you got to fill in the gaps a little bit.
It's like the story is saying, here are the basic building blocks. Now use them to build your own understanding of this world.
Exactly.
And I think that active engagement
Yeah.
is what makes language learning truly effective.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so let's get back to Leo's journey.
Okay. Back to Leo.
The story builds this incredible tension
Yeah.
as he's kind of approaching the day of his next sacrifice.
Oh, okay.
You know, he's torn between his desire for a normal life,
Right.
but also this fear of missing out on an eternity with his loved ones.
It's a tough one.
And the way the author uses sensory details
Yeah.
to heighten that tension is brilliant.
Oh, yeah, for example.
Remember how Leo remembers the feel of the grass beneath his feet when he played soccer?
Oh, yeah.
Or the sound of his daughter's laughter?
Those so vivid.
Those simple descriptions
Yeah.
really bring those memories to life.
Uh-huh.
And it makes his sacrifice feel even more real
And heartbreaking.
and heartbreaking.
Oh, for language learners,
Yeah.
these sensory details are so valuable.
Yeah.
It's like teaching them how to paint a picture with words.
Yes.
You know how to evoke these specific emotions
Mhm.
through simple descriptions.
It's like a mini lesson
Right.
in descriptive writing woven into the fabric of the story.
Exactly. It's so much more effective
Yeah,
than just, memorizing lists of adjectives.
totally. Okay, so the big moment arrives.
Okay, the moment of truth.
Leo has to make his decision.
What does he do?
What does he choose?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
after a lot of deliberation and back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
he decides to stop taking forever life.
Wow.
He chooses a natural lifespan.
So he's choosing to age and
Yeah,
eventually die.
knowing that that's what's going to happen.
Wow, that's a huge decision.
I know.
I can't even imagine what that would be like, to
Yeah.
turn your back on immortality,
Right.
especially when everyone around you is embracing it.
It's a big deal.
It's huge.
And it's really interesting how the story portrays this decision.
Yeah. How so?
Well, Leo doesn't like make a grand announcement or have a dramatic confrontation with anyone.
Yeah, he doesn't make a big fuss about it.
He doesn't.
Okay.
He simply makes his choice and moves forward.
It's almost like he's found a sense of peace
Yeah.
in accepting his own mortality.
And the story uses this really simple, straightforward language
Okay.
to convey that sense of acceptance.
That's really powerful, and I think that's a really valuable lesson for language learners.
Yeah.
It shows them how even these complex emotions
Right.
can be expressed with clarity and precision.
And it's a reminder for all of us
Yeah.
that sometimes the most profound truths
Yeah.
are found in simplicity.
I love that. Yeah.
Okay, so what happens to Leo after he makes this life-altering decision?
What happens next?
Well, the story jumps ahead in time,
Okay.
and it shows us Leo in his later years.
Okay.
And he's built a really happy and fulfilling life.
Oh, that's nice.
He has a family, and he's found joy in the simple things.
I love that.
And the story highlights this message through these simple everyday moments,
Like what kind of moments?
like spending time with his loved ones, enjoying nature,
Mm.
finding satisfaction in his work.
So the good stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff.
The simple things.
Exactly. And for language learners, this part of the story
Yeah.
is like a treasure trove of vocabulary
Okay.
related to everyday life,
Yeah.
family, and emotions.
That's great.
It's like a glimpse into the language of everyday happiness.
Exactly. It shows how simple English
Yeah.
can be used to express this full range of human experiences,
Right.
from the profound
Yeah.
to the mundane.
It really does.
It's fantastic.
But the story doesn't end there.
Oh, there's more.
Okay.
What about Mia?
Yeah. What about Mia?
What's she been up to?
She's still out there, right?
Oh, she's still living her eternal life,
Okay.
constantly searching for these new experiences
Still going strong.
and new loves.
Okay.
And she eventually reconnects with Leo,
Oh.
who is now an old man.
So they're at very different stages of life. They are.
That's going to be an interesting meeting.
Yes.
I'm curious about that reunion.
I am too.
How does Leo feel about seeing Mia, still young and vibrant
Real
while
quick.
he's aging?
Does he regret his decision?
Yeah, is there any, wistfulness there, or...
But that's what makes this ending so compelling.
Okay.
When Mia asks Leo if he regrets choosing a natural lifespan,
Uh-huh.
his answer is so simple,
Okay.
but profound. All right, I'm ready for this.
He says, "No, Mia, I am happy."
Wow.
Just like that.
That's powerful.
It is.
It's like a gut punch
Yes, I know.
of honesty.
Yeah.
Just delivered in the most straightforward way.
And for learners,
Yeah.
that's such a valuable lesson, right?
Absolutely.
It shows how powerful directness can be.
Sometimes you don't need a lot of words. You
Yeah.
just say it like it is.
Exactly.
Plain and simple.
And it's also fascinating how the story ends.
Yeah.
Without explicitly telling us what's right or wrong.
Oh, interesting.
Leo's happy with his choice.
Mia's still on her path.
Right.
It's kind of left open for interpretation.
And I think that's brilliant,
Yeah.
especially for language learners.
Yeah.
You know, it encourages them to form their own opinion,
Yes.
to use the language
Right.
to express what they think about the story's message.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just understanding the words on the page.
Yeah, you're taking it to that next level.
It's about engaging with the ideas.
You're interacting with it.
Yeah, and making the story your own.
I love that. Yeah.
You know, thinking back to the critique we received before rewriting this episode,
Uh-huh.
one point that really resonated with me
Yeah.
was about finding these unique insights.
Right. Like, what makes this story stand out?
Yeah, it's easy to just say, oh, this is a great story for learners.
Right.
But what does this specific story do
Yeah. What's unique about it?
that makes it so special for this audience?
What struck me is how it tackles this huge concept,
Yeah.
immortality,
Right.
but grounds it in these really relatable everyday details.
Like Leo giving up soccer.
Yeah.
Missing the feel of the grass.
It makes it so real.
It makes this fantastic dilemma
Mm-hmm.
feel tangible.
Yeah.
Even for someone who's new to the language.
I totally agree.
Right, like even if you haven't experienced the exact same thing as Leo.
Yeah.
You've probably felt that sadness of letting go of something you love.
Absolutely. Everyone's been there.
And the story taps into that universal emotion.
And it does it so well.
And it does it through this simple, clear language
Yeah.
that's accessible to almost anyone.
And that brings us to another interesting point from the critique.
Oh, yeah.
The balance between acknowledging the simplicity of the language,
Right.
but also respecting the depth of the story's ideas.
It's a tricky balance.
It is. It's a tough one.
We don't want to sound patronizing like...
Right. We don't want to be like, oh, look how smart this simple story is.
Exactly.
Uh.
But we also can't ignore the fact that
Yeah.
it achieves so much with such limited vocabulary.
And I think what we've tried to do in this deep dive
I think so too.
is to really highlight both.
Yeah.
You know, yes, the language is simple,
Yes.
but the questions it raises
Right.
about life choice, what it means to be truly happy,
Yeah.
those are anything but simple.
Not simple at all.
Right.
And that's what makes this story such a powerful tool for language learners.
I agree.
It allows them to engage with those complex themes without feeling overwhelmed
Right.
by complicated vocabulary or grammar.
It's like a stepping stone
Yeah.
into the world of literature and profound thought.
Exactly.
You know, it shows you that you don't need this massive vocabulary
Yeah.
to grapple with big ideas
Right.
or to express yourself meaningfully.
And so as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Right.
I'd like to leave our listeners with a final thought.
Right.
If you're learning English,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to seek out stories like this one.
Right.
Don't let the simple language label fool you.
Yeah, don't be intimidated.
There's a whole universe of meaning waiting to be discovered.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you might just find yourself surprised
Yeah,
by how deeply these stories can touch you,
for sure.
even at the beginning of your language journey.
And for those of you who are already fluent in English,
Yeah.
you know this story is a great reminder
Yeah,
that sometimes the most profound truths are found in the simplest of things.
absolutely.
So, you know, take a moment today
Yeah.
to appreciate the beauty of simple language,
Yes.
the power of clear communication,
I love that.
and the magic of a story that can move us,
Yeah.
regardless of our background or level of expertise.
Beautifully said.
Thank you. Back again for the final part of our deep dive. You know, it's amazing how even a story like this one,
know, right?
with language so simple, can still get you thinking about these huge questions.
It really is.
Like we were saying about Leo's choice and how Mia handles forever life. But what gets me
Yeah.
is that it was made for beginners, right? But it still makes us think.
Totally.
Like re-examining our own WN values, even though we're experienced with English, you know?
And I think that's really cool for language learners, too.
Absolutely.
It shows them that you don't need to know a ton of fancy words
Right.
to start thinking about these big topics.
Exactly, like sacrifice and happiness and what makes a life good.
Right. And those aren't just English ideas.
No
They're
way.
universal.
everyone deals with that stuff no matter what language they speak.
So, okay, last time we left off with Leo, much older now,
Yeah.
and happy about the choice he made.
Mm-hmm.
And he is still out there living forever, always finding new things to be passionate about.
Right.
It's that reunion scene that really gets me.
Oh, yeah.
The story's simple language becomes so powerful there.
Oh, it does. Like you're saying, no fancy stuff.
No metaphors or anything,
Just plain talking.
but it hits you right in the feels
Totally.
when Leo just says straight up,
Yeah.
"No, Mia, I am happy."
Powerful stuff.
And for people learning English, I think that's huge. It proves that being direct can have a big impact.
Sometimes you don't got to be all poetic, you know?
No, just say it plain and simple.
And another thing that's cool is the story doesn't end by saying,
Yeah.
like, this is the right way to be, or that's the wrong way.
Leaves it open.
Totally open. Like, Leo's happy with what he chose.
Mm-hmm.
Mia's still doing her thing.
It's up to you to decide what you think.
Which for language learners, I think that's great.
Yeah.
It encourages them to make up their own minds.
Use the language to tell people what they think about the message.
It's like going beyond just understanding the words. You're
Right.
really interacting with the ideas.
You're making the story yours.
You got it.
You know, going back to that feedback we got before redoing this episode,
Huh?
they said we should try to find unique insights.
Yeah, not just say, oh, this is good for learners.
Right, like what makes this one special?
What stood out to me was how it deals with this huge topic.
Immortality.
Yeah, but it uses these little details we can all relate to.
Like Leo giving up soccer,
Yeah.
missing how the grass felt under his feet.
Makes it real.
So even if you're new to English,
Huh?
you can get what he's going through.
Because everyone's had to say goodbye to something they loved.
He uses those feelings we all have.
And it does it in language that's so clear.
Anyone can get it.
And that connects to another point they made.
Oh yeah, about how we talk about the simple language.
Right. Like, we gotta acknowledge it.
But not act like the ideas are dumb just because the words are easy.
It's a tough balance.
We don't want to sound all condescending.
Like, look how smart this baby story is.
Exactly.
But we can't pretend it's not doing something impressive.
With so few words.
I think in this deep dive, we've tried to show both sides.
Yeah.
Like, yes, the language is simple. The questions it makes you ask.
About life and choices.
Yeah. And true happiness.
Those are anything but simple.
That's what makes it perfect for people learning English.
They can get into those deep topics.
Without being scared off by big words.
It's like a gateway into serious literature
Exactly. Like, you don't gotta be a scholar
to understand these ideas.
or to say something meaningful yourself.
So as we wrap this whole thing up,
Yeah.
one last thought for everyone listening.
Hit us with it.
If you're learning English,
Yeah.
don't be afraid of stories like this one.
Right.
Just because it says simple English,
Doesn't mean it's childish.
there's a whole world of meaning in there.
Waiting to be discovered.
You might be surprised how much it moves you.
Even if you're just starting out.
And for those of you who've got English down,
Yeah.
it's a good reminder that simple things can be profound too.
Take a moment today.
Appreciate that simple language
How much it can say,
and how stories can move us all.
no matter who we are or what we know.
Beautifully said.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those stories coming.